QB prices have gotten out of control in underdog big board SuperFlex drafts. Sometimes upwards of 10, 11 quarterbacks going in the first round. The top 6 players by ADP, all quarterbacks. So how do we handle this? How do we win this tournament? Do we just chase the quarterbacks out the board? Do we get crazy at quarterback? Are we drafting backups? What are we doing to mitigate this insane ADP and actually try to beat our opponents instead of just following the leader with all the quarterbacks? That's what we're going to figure out today. Crush some big board SuperFlex drafts. Let's do it. All right, Rob.
All right, Erik.
Talking about quarterbacks.
We are. We're talking about all the quarterbacks, actually.
We've talked about so many quarterbacks, like the quarterback conversation we've been having for like it feels like forever. I mean, we were talking about this year's quarterback like ADP and stuff in like June of last year. Like it's been almost a year of talking about quarterbacks. I don't think I'm loving continuing to talk about quarterbacks, but the tournament we have right now to draft is SuperFlex, and so this is what we have to do. But I do think it's a very interesting discussion, and I think I'm not saying I have the keys to the kingdom, but I do think there's a lot of people maybe not being thoughtful enough about these SuperFlex drafts as it pertains to quarterback mostly.
I think there's a lot of people approaching it, I don't want to say the right or wrong way, but I think they're approaching it from the stance of looking at other drafts and the value of quarterbacks and as they pertain to other drafts, and then I think there's people not valuing them enough, and I think there's people that are completely overvaluing the position, and I really think it depends your draft position on how you should play the quarterbacks in SuperFlexes. Personally, when I look at the draft boards and I see what's going on, there's stuff that I understand and there's stuff that I don't understand.
Yeah.
There's arguments that I've heard where it's like, okay, somebody drafted Josh Allen, we'll say 101 or 102. Well, I can't compete with a Josh Allen team with like a Tua or a Daniel Jones or something like that. And I don't think that's the way you should be approaching it. And particularly in the rare end of these drafts, I don't think double tapping quarterback is terrible as some people think it is, because your leverage isn't that you're putting a Tua team against Josh Allen. Your leverage is you're putting a Tua / Daniel Jones team against Josh Allen, and that person that has Josh Allen sometimes is double tapping quarterback, and the quarterback they're getting is, I don't know, Kirk Cousins.
Jared Goff,
which isn't terrible. It's not the worst, but I think your leverage is that you have two. It's the law of medians, right? Like you have the two middle that are probably going to propel you a little bit more than Josh Allen trying to carry Kirk Cousins every week, right? So I don't think that's a bad way to approach it either. But I think that the biggest, most egregious thing is these Josh Allen's, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes teams feeling like they have to double tap quarterback in those first 2 or 3 rounds. To me, that's egregious. I think those are the spots that you can actually punt and get the guy that I brought up on our last stream was that I did on Sunday, I believe, was Gardner Minchu. Is he going to start all 16 or 17 games? Maybe not, but there's a chance that he's a 17-game starter and you're getting him 16th, 17th round. And tell me what is the difference between Gardner Minshew right now and Kirk Cousins if he starts all 17 games? Is there
obviously
a difference?
Right, there's a difference, but this is definitely something we're going to get into. There's a difference, but the difference isn't, given the format, Kirk Cousins being a late 2nd round pick and Gardner Minshew going in the 17th round, or what, I don't even know what his ADP is. Like he doesn't even like necessarily always get drafted. And I am just going to tout your and our. People probably think that we plan some of this stuff out. A, we don't plan like anything before these shows. B, we definitely didn't plan this. I have posted our core picks for these SuperFlex tournaments, and funnily enough, Gardner Minshew is one of the 3 quarterbacks that makes the list because of what you said. Everyone is valuing quarterbacks but not every quarterback. You know what I mean? Like if Kirk Cousins is a second round pick, then Gardner Minchu should not have an ADP of 184. I don't like Gardner Minchu. Like I'm not going to draft him in Best Ball Mania. I don't really think he's all that great of a player. The spot is not great, but he's he's a quarterback that has very clear path to starting, maybe starting for a significant period of time. And he goes borderline undrafted, but Jared Goff's going in the second round, like because he put up a few big games last year. Like this is still Jared Goff. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that's definitely some of it. But continue, because I totally agree with kind of your point about it's not anything about you can't double tap quarterback at the end of the first round, or you can't. I don't even think it's necessarily wrong to take Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff. I don't, because of the profile that Jared Goff is, that's not something that I'm interested in. But I don't think that in and of itself is like, oh my God, you're an idiot, you lost the SuperFlex tournament. Right. I think there's just so much nuance. What are our opponents doing? And how are you going to try to win this tournament? Right. And like a lot of the biggest mistake, I think, is probably after that. Right. If you double tap quarterback to start, almost no matter what your draft position is, it's like the mistakes come thereafter, probably. Like I keep seeing and hearing a lot of that. It's like, oh, well, how are you going to beat the Josh Allen team with Dak and Tua? And I'm like, well, I have two. Yeah. They have one. Yeah. Josh Allen in any given week can be outscored by other quarterbacks. We're not competing to score the most points over the course of the regular season. We're competing to win a best ball tournament in which we saw Tom Brady and Daniel Jones lap the field in week 17. We saw the aforementioned Kirk Cousins put up big games. We saw Tua put up big games. And so I think people still are thinking about, especially this format, through the lens of like traditional, like I'm trying to create the optimal team and score the most points over the course of the regular season. But like, that's not the goal here. The goal here is dude, honestly, I would rather just get second in the regular season, score as few points as possible, because then I probably have a crappier team with lower owned players, and then get in the dance. And then how do I win those three playoff rounds? So obviously you can't target that. I'm not trying to create bad teams, but I'm just saying everything I hear is like, how do you beat the Josh Allen team with this? And it's like, well, that's not really like how it works. Plus I have a bunch of other picks, And so I just think we can think about this thing a little bit differently. And I know you have some ideas. You've already elaborated some. I have some ideas. So I think it's a really fun conversation.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of nuance to the SuperFlex that we're all still working our way through. I think some of it can carry over to some of the other tournaments, not completely. So one of my other ideas with the SuperFlex is it brings up the value of some of these backup quarterbacks for this particular tournament. I think it helps if you look at it, like if you nuance it and look at it, some of these backups are still viable for like a Best Ball Mania. But really the top 4, 5, 6 backups, you're able to take them, especially in 20-round formats. We want to take shots on backup quarterbacks. Why wouldn't we? Marcus Mariota in Philadelphia. Do we think Marcus Mariota is a good quarterback? No, he's not great.
No, I can attest to how much Falcons I watched last year.
He's not great, but if you had Marcus Mariota on a SuperFlex and you're getting him 19th, 20th round, the value on Hurts, do you think Hurts is going to play all 17 games? I hope so. But we saw last year they didn't play all 17 games. Imagine if Marcus Mariota was in Philadelphia last year. You had Marcus Mariota on your bench. He's playing for them, right? And he's putting up a 17 to 22 point median over those last, playoff weeks. And you dragged him to the playoffs, which wasn't too hard to do because you got him in the 19th round.
Right.
So your core is still out there firing on all cylinders. You dragged yourself to the playoffs, and Marcus Mariota comes in, and boom, you're one of the only Marcus Mariota teams in the tournament, and he's solidly putting up numbers for you in the SuperFlex position. Right?
Yep.
I mean, it's slightly galaxy brain, but it's not really that crazy.
No. And someone like Marcus Mariota can fit into just about any structure. And I've also seen, here's something. So the theme for me in terms of, obviously the title of the show is 2 ways to leverage. There are certainly more ways to leverage this format. But the theme for me is kind of two-pronged. It's almost one in the same. But it is all like, and that's what this game of best ball is. I think people miss sometimes. And I think people have gotten much, much smarter at, like, say, in Best Ball Mania or like the DraftKings Millie, and I don't know about DraftKings. Drafters are pretty sharp people over there drafting over there. But in SuperFlex, it's a new format. People don't feel super comfortable with it, right? Even Underdog's specific SuperFlex format is very different, removing the wide receiver and adding, God forbid, we keep wide receivers on Underdog. They, so they've totally changed the format. It's new to everybody. Best ball is already new and difficult. I think people just hop in and they say, how do I build the best team? Right? How do I build the best team, like, to score the most points, right? If I were drafting my home league Superflex, how would I do this? If I were drafting a dynasty Superflex, how would I do this? And, like, that's not what we're doing. Like, everything is about winning this tournament, which is, I don't really give a shit how many regular season points. I don't give a shit how many points I score over the entire. I don't care how many points I score in week 17. Pat Crane won $2 million in Best Ball Mania, scoring like 160 points in week 17. Like, that wasn't even a good week. Like, it was fine, of course, but like Liam the year before scored like 200 or something like that. Like, it's just the actual amount of points don't really matter. And Kareem's team wasn't good. Like, if we did a draft, you viewed a draft throughout the course of the summer last year. I don't mean it not good. I mean, like, through the lens that we're talking about here. If you pulled Tom Brady and Eckler and, like, Godwin, whatever, like, it's whatever. It's fine. Like, nobody was really all that excited, but he structured it well, right? He stacked wide receivers with quarterbacks. So he gave himself a chance. He didn't score the most points in the regular season, nowhere near close. There's a ton of busts on that. Tom Brady was an epic disaster as a quarterback pick, but you just got to get to the dance. And then, as long as you have well-structured your team, now it becomes about leverage and what did all of our opponents do, right? And so if you're doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, whether that is double tapping quarterback or freaking triple tapping quarterback, right? Or what you mentioned, what I keep seeing, and I haven't done many of these, and so it's mostly me consuming content and seeing what other people are doing. But in the drafts that I do, partially because I've done it, but I've also seen other people do it and other people talk about it, is your initial point about the end of the first round. Everybody says, okay, I didn't get a top 5 or 6, depending upon how you view, Lamar and Herbert or whatever. I didn't get one of those guys. So I can't take Deshaun Watson. I can't take Dak. I can't take those guys over Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson. And I'm not saying I disagree. I absolutely, if you go to our Superflex rankings, I have Justin Jefferson 5th overall in this format. So, like, I have him higher. Like, I'm not drafting Joe Burrow over Justin Jefferson, and people think that's great. Some people are drafting Justin Herbert over Justin Jefferson and things like that. And I'm like, how is Justin Herbert beating Josh Allen? Like, I don't know what the difference between him and Dak or Tua is, but the whole point is, if you're saying, okay, once we get this quarterback past this tier, wherever your tier break is, I can't take one of these other quarterbacks, and everyone else is doing the same thing, what leverage are you gaining on anyone? You think this is optimal, right? You're drafting it because you believe it's the optimal, like, way to build a team to score the most points. But that's not the goal here. Right. And so, to your point, if everyone reaches pick 9 and everyone takes Justin Jefferson at pick 9, and then we come back around and a couple more quarterbacks go, and then everyone takes Tyreek Hill in the second round with that same thing, and all your Justin Jefferson teams are punt quarterback, like, that's not, you just built the same Justin Jefferson teams over and over and over with thousands of other people in the field. Now, there's nuance to that, right? It's still a little bit of a crapshoot in terms of the other players that are actually on that team, but you're not gaining leverage. You're thinking that you're being smarter, like, everybody's chasing quarterback, so I'm just going to take Justin Jefferson. But you're actually doing the same thing as every other Justin Jefferson drafter, and he gets picked in every draft. So you're not really gaining anything. And so my thing is, I like I said, I don't have the all the answers. No one does. But the what you should be solving for is how I'm going to beat my opponents. How I'm going to build this team that gives me a chance to have a better Justin Jefferson team than everybody else, or have a Dak Tua team that can beat the Josh Allen teams, right? Those kind, like, I'm not setting out to be like, like it feels like like I said, a traditional season long mindset where people are just like, I need to make the optimal pick in terms of how I'm going to score the most points on this team, as opposed to like, dude, they're all first, second, third round picks. They're all good. Like there's not an optimal pick or a suboptimal pick. They're all awesome for fantasy. So how do you combine them all together, both from a player combination perspective and from like a structural perspective, to create a team that gives you a better chance to win the tournament, right? And a better chance to win the tournament it sometimes is projection, generally not. It's generally like, how did you combine players together? How did you, structure your team? Are you wide receiver heavy early when everybody else is going running back, or vice versa? If everybody's really, and if everybody's quarterback, like there's just, you have to think these things through in terms of how you're winning the tournament. And that's the biggest takeaway that I've had so far, is I think most people are just like, how do I build the highest scoring team? And that's not what we're trying to do.
And in line with that thinking, I think people are going too much to the fact that you have to play a quarterback in the SuperFlex spot. Like, I have to have a quarterback play SuperFlex every week or I'm dead. And that's not true either. You have quarterbacks that are scoring consistently 10, 11, 12 points, right? For that lower third of quarterbacks last year, they weren't putting up like godly numbers that you had to have. So if you're getting enough wide receivers and running backs that are rotating through that SuperFlex that are getting you the touchdown and 40 yards, they're probably going to be the equivalent of some of these quarterbacks you're getting in the third or fourth round, and you're getting these running backs in the 10th, 11th, 12th round. So why do you have to go into that mindset that you need two quarterbacks immediately? And you have to have one for the SuperFlex. Now, I do want more quarterbacks because, again, they do have the best chance of scoring 20 points, but not at the overvaluing that some of them are going. So I think
I want them.
Yeah.
I want the quarterback. No one is saying it's kind of like when we talk in the regular season, like, I want good running backs too, but I'm trying to build a team that by the time we get to the tournament, I have good everything. Right. And I have upside and I have leverage and I have all of that. It goes to, this is true, in my opinion, about the general consensus of quarterbacks in this format, as well as running backs. Everyone says this is the thing. Quarterbacks are obviously worth more in SuperFlex. That's just obvious. But because the wide receiver position got removed, people will say running backs are more valuable. And that is also true, but all running backs are more valuable, right? And so it becomes, if all running backs get a boost, that doesn't mean that whatever. I really like Nick Chubb, so this is a terrible example, but Nick Chubb instantly should go ahead of Cooper Kupp. It's like, well, no, because if all the running backs gain an edge, that means that 10th round running back that you take also gets a boost. And so you take him with Cooper Kupp. What does that combination get you versus Nick Chubb with Juju? Like, what would you rather have? Like, obviously, if you're saying that the running back position is more valuable, the running back gets the boost. Juju is worthless in this format, but Cooper Kupp is still valuable because you do have to fill out two wide receiver spots, and he's freaking, the second coming of old school Randy Moss in fantasy at wide receiver. So like, it's those kinds of things where people will say they're more optimal or higher valued because of the format, but this is a market. Right. And if all running backs are more valuable and all quarterbacks are more valuable, it becomes the way you put those puzzle pieces together to create the combination of players that either A, project better, have a higher ceiling, or give you leverage on the field. It's like we just talked about Gardner Minchu. The other two, it's free on the website, our core picks for this tournament and all SuperFlex tournaments. But two guys who I think the ADP is absolutely egregious for are also core picks at quarterback, and it's not early round guys. It's Anthony Richardson and Sam Howell. And before we get to the fun parts of them, trust me, Rob, everyone is fully aware of the concerns and the risks around Anthony Richardson and Sam Howell. Some people don't think Anthony Richardson can play. Some people don't think he'll start this year. Same thing with Sam Howell. Maybe he's not very good. They brought in Jacoby Brissett, since when is Jacoby Brissett?
I don't understand this argument.
Like, people are like, well, they signed Jacoby Brissett. Like, Jacoby Brissett's not making any money, and it's
so
like
did every other team in the league at some point.
Yeah, exactly. The dude has been on every team, and it's like, they have to sign someone, right? Like, did you expect that they were gonna sign no quarterbacks? Like, and then so then if they drafted a fourth rounder, would you say, oh, look, they drafted a fourth rounder, can't pick it? You just didn't. You just were never going to be in on Sam. It's okay to say that too, but like, Jacoby Brissett doesn't change anything about Sam Howell. Does that also mean that Sam Howell is free and clear to start the whole year? No, of course not. It is, of course, possible Jacoby Brissett starts week 1. It is possible he's starting, Howell gets benched, whatever. But the fact remains that those two guys are going much, much, much lower than some of these veteran low ceiling quarterbacks we just talked about. And air quotes low ceiling. Everyone can have a big game, but like Jared Goff did, Kirk Cousins did, right? But the archetype that they present is lower floor and lower ceiling because they don't run. Their offenses are above average, but not, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, etc. And then you have these quarterbacks who we all know present crazy upside. Like, Anthony Richardson is the biggest mutant in the history of quarterback prospects. Like, I don't know if he's good at football, but the dude is an absolute mutant. And Sam Howell was to me one of the most underdrafted quarterbacks like ever in the NFL draft. How he made it to the 5th round is absurd. He was a very good prospect, and he runs. He scored 20 fantasy points almost in one start last year, throwing 19 passes. They're 19 passes, and he scored 20 fantasy points because guess what? He runs. They have a good offense, and his only competition is a cheap career backup, Jacoby Brissett, with Erik Bieniemy's in town now, right? It's a little bit of a change. Like, what is Bieniemy going to sign up for? Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell, like, to unlock his new offense? So again, that's just lining up all the points. Who knows what happens with Howell and Richardson? But these guys can win you the tournament because they go later. They have tons of risk, so people are scared of them. But like, how does Kirk Cousins in the 2nd round win you the tournament? He might stabilize you, right? Because he's going to score a bunch of 15 to 20 point games. But like, getting this year's Daniel Jones or this year's Geno, right? Geno to the Minchu example, or Mariota, or those kinds of guys, is more of the Minchu thing. It could be Jacoby Brissett. Those guys are how you like really gain on your opponents, right? Getting a 7th round quarterback, 8th round quarterback, 19th round quarterback in this format that's providing like quarterback 1 numbers and is slotted into your quarterback or super flex spot every week. That's how you win, because guess what else you got? Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Nick Chubb. You got all those guys. The other people were like, well, I'm getting good quarterback production, but I spent my first 3 picks on it. It's like you just like lost in round 3 of your draft. You lost the tournament in round 3 of your draft. I think you can double tap. I'm not saying that is wrong either, but I think you're just playing kind of roulette a lot more frequently when you double tap, unless you're able to get a unique combination that just doesn't exist by ADP. If you triple tap, I think you pretty much just lost the tournament in round 3.
I don't think the double tapping's bad, but the point that you bring up about the unique combo, I think is pretty important too. I think Steven in the chat brings up a really good comment here. So I may be wrong here, but I feel like I see a lot of heavy QB and punt QB, but less hero QB. I've tried to do hero QB Hurts, Allen, Mahomes, and blocking the zero QB teams by pairing with A-Rich, Lance, and Howell.
Love it.
And this is literally, other than Trey Lance, this is literally how I've been building my top 3 picks in the Superflex. Is I hero QB it. It's either Hurts, Allen, Mahomes, and then I'm just going to load up everywhere else, and then I will find 3 other quarterbacks, probably 2 other quarterbacks that I think have the chance to start in that Superflex spot, because you're not replacing Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, right? Those points they're locked. They are the biggest locks in fantasy football, no matter the format. That's why we talk about only drafting one of them when you have 18 rounds. You probably don't need another quarterback. We had a team last year in a regular draft, me and Overset. We had Hurts. We actually went 3 QBs. We had Hurts, we had Zach Wilson, and we had Ryan Tannehill. And guess how many points Tannehill and and Zach Wilson gave us throughout the season when Hurts was active and playing. I think it was 12. I think it was 1 week that Zach Wilson gave us 12 points. Tannehill never put up any points for us, really. So it was dead picks, and the point being, you're never replacing these guys, right? So they are locked into your thing where, like, if you go 0 QB, you might be able to rotate some, but you have a locked-in starter. You can hero QB it. You can rotate a couple other guys in that super flex. And again, if you're building strong enough, you don't need a QB in that super flex every time. You start Jalen Hurts, and then you get a, you could even, I know you don't like going running back, but there's ways to go Jalen Hurts, Travis Etienne, Tony Pollard, and then load up on wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And now your roster is dangerous because the wide receivers are pushed down. So you're getting better wide receivers later in the 4th or 6th round. And those teams could be like real nasty. And I'd be scared to death to face that team. You're showing me a Hurts
100%.
team with Tony Pollard and Nick Chubb. And the wide receivers are still people that can put up 20 to 30 point games. No, thanks. I don't want to play against that.
Yeah, I don't think you sound like you're underwater, but it could also be something. You sound normal to me.
Cover the show, and I will be right back.
Yeah. So what I was gonna piggyback on. I'm so glad Steve brought this up, because this is what I was gonna kind of start to get into, is when we were talking about, when I was talking about and Rob was listening to me go on a tangent about the idea that once you get to the end of the first round, you need to bypass quarterback, and you need to take the elite skill position players. Again, I'm not saying that is wrong, but we need to think about what are people doing, and this is one of those. So this is, one of our 2 leverage points is building these structures that people are just not building because everyone is thinking the same, right? Everyone is. We take these top X quarterbacks, and then they take these top X quarterbacks, as Steve says, right? Let's just call it the top 5, because I do think it's debatable after Burrow. Once we get through Joe Burrow, right? So Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Fields, and Burrow, it's totally fine to take them. I would definitely take the top 4. If you wanted to throw Burrow in there, I totally get it. I'm going to take those top guys. Now what do I do? This is when the decision point starts to come in about, how do I win this tournament? No one is saying like, oh, you got to win this tournament by punting quarterback because everybody's taking quarterbacks. Well, no, because there are punt quarterback teams too. It's just, of course, punt quarterback is viable, but then how do you figure out leverage from within, right? The Allen, Mahomes, Hurts teams. And then if you're at the end of the first round, how do you figure out leverage from within that team? Whether it's, I just keep using Justin Jefferson because he's the easiest one, right? You get the best skill player in all of fantasy. You get Justin Jefferson. Is every Justin Jefferson team also punting quarterback? Or what about hero quarterback with Dak? Why can't that win? No one is saying Dak is going to beat those elite guys frequently, but Dak plus Richardson plus Howell, if you like Lance, if you like CJ Stroud, right? Though whatever, just don't. Here's the next thing we'll get to is the second leverage point, but is how do you construct this team that when you show up to week 17, right? The whole thing is I drafted like I'm right. How do I show up to week 17 with this team that can win? If everyone said, well, I can't beat Allen with Dak, so there's no Justin Jefferson Dak. Like I'll take Justin Jefferson Dak. Like why can't Dak score 25 or 30 points in the championship round? And now I have, right, Howell shows up and scores 25 points. Who gives a shit what who cares what Josh Allen did, right? And I have Justin Jefferson. Like those kinds of things are just how it sounds silly because it sounds like you're talking about like a 1 week like DFS tournament, but that's partially how you have to think about it. Is like quarterback scoring is replaceable on average. So you want outliers. We just talked about those top guys being outliers, right? you can mix in the Daks and such of the world because they are still very strong fantasy plays. But how do you still capture that outlier upside that our opponents are not going for, right? Within these structures. So a hero quarterback is like the perfect example, or the opposite, which is kind of what we started with. If everybody at the first, I'm not saying everyone is doing this, but I'm saying if everyone at the end of the first round is like, I can't draft Dak here. No, I can't. No. And everybody's just taking, right, Jefferson, Kupp, Tyreek, CMC, JT, whatever. If there's all those teams out there, well, you're not actually doing anything different than anybody else is doing. You feel better about it because you think it's a better way to construct the team. But like, that's it. We don't know what the best way to construct the team is because the results are just going to be the results. It's randomness and variance. So the hero quarterback thing is one of those examples. I think it's easiest to understand through the lens of the elite guy, right? Mm-hmm. Because like you said, I think the most overdrafted thing is definitely triple tapping quarterback no matter what. The worst thing is triple tapping quarterback when you have one of the top 5 guys.
Yeah.
But then I think the most overdone thing it's not wrong, but it's just double tapping quarterback with the elite guy. Because you're not getting a difference maker with that second pick. You're just like, I got to fill out quarterback because that quarterback's important, right? I got to fill out quarterback. But like you can fill out, you're good at one of them. And now you got 19 other picks to figure out SuperFlex. And like you said, sometimes you might get a good running back score in there. You cobble it together with 2 or 3 of these upside shot guys, right? That's totally fine because we're trying to win the tournament. We're not trying to be like, I feel really good about my starting lineup, right? Like I got my second quarterback in there early because if that's what everybody else is doing, then it doesn't really help us. And we're just flipping coins the rest of the way.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do I sound better?
Yes, I think so. It's fun. There you go. For the screenshots, Updog says focus on your wide receiver 1 stacks. That's the new thing. I read Leone's article as well yesterday. Everybody's all about stacking now. You'll get more likes on your tweets if you screenshot. There was something else. Oh, Jose says, can you even win a SuperFlex tournament if you can't get to draft the top 5 QB? Absolutely. Last year, you could have won the SuperFlex tournament with Daniel Jones and Tom Brady as your quarterbacks. I know, like, all these things sound crazy because you're like, well, look what Hurts did, and but look how the season plays out. There's so much chaos and randomness. Trevor Lawrence was a smash and tanked you in week 17, right? They got benched. Yeah, week 17. The Jaguars played less than a half. Jalen Hurts was hurt, right? Mahomes was okay. Allen was okay. It was Tom Brady and Daniel Jones. Joe Burrow wasn't a top 5 quarterback 2 years ago. He was fringy, but he wasn't looked upon as like, oh my God, Joe Burrow. If you don't get Joe Burrow, you can't win SuperFlex. It was Allen and Mahomes and whatever. And so that's why this whole conversation about structure and leverage and all of that is so important, because as long as you're putting together a good team, it's fine. Like it's fine. It's all about how are we going to win the tournament in terms of what our opponents are doing. It's not that much about, making sure I fill out my quarterback position. You can go ahead and enter. And I just have one more thing to wrap up this conversation as we're hopping into the draft. We need one more. Oh man, we keep hitting this right at the end of these filling out. The other thing that I was going to say in terms of leverage points is a little bit more player specific, but I think the single worst leverage thing you can do is to take some of those dusty quarterbacks way too high because you're just trying to get a quarterback. So shocker, the main example that I always think of is Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo, you're technically getting a starting quarterback, but it's not a guarantee that they're being rumored to draft a quarterback. So it's not guaranteed that he starts the whole year, especially if they stink, which they might. And he's been on elite offenses for his entire career and never scored fantasy points ever. He never put up big games. So who gives a shit if you have Jimmy Garoppolo? He's not helping you win anything, right? And he's just one example. I mean, Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff in the second round are a much more expensive, right, example. Derek Carr sometimes is that there's a time and place for some of these quarterbacks, but you need outliers, and there is never a circumstance where Jimmy Garoppolo is an outlier. You're just praying that he can get you 15-point games throughout the course of the season. So like that's why Anthony Richardson, Sam Howell, those guys. Hurts goes first. I know you love Mahomes, so we got to take Allen over Mahomes.
That's fine. I'll take Allen. I just kind of snagged all of them. I actually thought Allen was going to go first, so I was going to decide.
Are you for sure Mahomes over Hurts?
No, I'm probably Hurts over Mahomes, but it's tough. Like to me, the three of them are just pulling a name out of a hat almost.
Yeah,
I know Allen is theoretically the number one out of them, but I don't know. I think the margin of difference between the three is like razor thin.
I agree. The thing that I do kind of keep at first, I was not a Mahomes, like, I know that you were a big Mahomes guy. I was not as big a Mahomes fantasy guy. And then coming into this year, when you see the rushing that Hurts and Allen and Fields provide, and Mahomes having to make up a lot of it just with passing, which of course he's going to make up a lot of it with passing. He's the best quarterback of all time. But yeah, but I've come, like, I do have like semi-small concerns. I mean, I don't even have to talk about the concerns with Fields. It's like, are they like he can run crazy, but they do have to throw. They have to throw a little bit and have some success throwing, which I expect they'll do. But we have a lot of projecting in him being the 4th or 5th overall quarterback. And then love Hurts, obviously, but they had basically the easiest schedule in the NFL last year. The division has gotten a little bit better. I'm not saying this is going to change anything for his fantasy outlook, but I think the schedule is going to be tougher. I think he ran pretty pure with the old QB sneak, the old QB sneaks, and some stuff like that. And so, in a year where they were proving themselves last year, I also think it's possible they don't run Hurts quite as much last year. He obviously got banged up, and so I just think there's like these are really, really nitpicking, but like Mahomes feels really rock solid. Allen was frankly not that good last year, like as an actual NFL quarterback, like relative to the fact that we view him as super, super elite. He was good, but like not nearly as good as I think everybody probably expects Josh Allen to be. And then like they bring in Damian Harris. I know that's really small and silly, but like I think that he probably runs a little bit less too. Like he also runs like a moron. Like that does. He's gonna get hurt. Like he hasn't, but he's gonna get hurt.
Dumbest running. He's Cam Newton, right?
Yeah, these guys run like bowling balls. Like, dude, you can't do that. You're a freaking. I know you're a tank, but like you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, luckily he's gonna be in the NFL for 20 years doing this. So
yeah, it doesn't matter how many hits he takes. He's gonna be able to sling that pigskin 80 yards in the Buffalo weather in January. But I think it's debatable at the very debatable at the top because they're all awesome. It's nitpicking, but there's reasons to like be a little higher or a little lower on all of them.
I completely agree. My thing with Mahomes though is, yeah, his rushing upside isn't the same, but he is going to be the most consistent 300-yard, 350-yard game passer.
Absolutely.
And it's not even close. So
no.
He's going to make it up with the passing, and that's why I think he's fine to take wherever. So I just want to look at. So we're already Aaron Rodgers at quarterback here.
You can't do that. I don't think this is worse than taking Dak over Kupp. Is taking Aaron Rodgers here because Kupp and those guys versus JT. Like I think it's JT probably. I prefer wide receivers, but I think JT probably. But like this to me, to Steve's point, to the conversation earlier, like you talk about 2v2s, like Dak plus another elite like wide receiver, right? Like Dak plus CD, right? Take Dak CD at the 1-2 turn or something. I'm just making shit up. Mm-hmm. That's not worth like taking Aaron Rodgers over Jonathan Taylor when you have that elite quarterback. I think that's worse. Do you prefer Devontae or CD?
Honestly, I prefer CD.
Me too.
But do we take Devontae because we're getting a value on him and we're going to be able to start Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. Yeah, it's like the quarterback thing, splitting hairs.
It's
You know
splitting
me.
hairs, but the hair that we're splitting is how many Allen, Taylor, Devontae Adams teams are there, right? I
Right.
think it's a combination that is it going to be completely unique? No, but it's going to be less than normal.
Yeah, a little less than normal. Right. And again, we're totally splitting hairs on all of these guys. So if you have, and once we get to the peak draft season, I'll be much more locked into the player combinations. We'll have ownership projections, which if you've not seen, we're still fine tuning these things. It's the very first time we've built best ball ownership projections. So nothing is ever perfect that very first time, but that's something we're really going to focus on once like BBM season gets here and May gets here for all the sites, is having ownership projections, which will be based on real drafts, based on ADP, based on historical data that are projecting exactly what Rob said. So we'd be able to pull it up and say, okay, I don't really give a shit between Devontae Adams and CD. They both look about the same to me. So what's the ownership projection on Allen plus, and I think you can do up to 3 players, Allen, JT, Devontae versus the ownership projection on Allen, JT, and CD. And you'll be like, oh, no one has CD, but a bunch of people have Devontae, then we would do CD, right? And vice versa.
And I think that our team is actually such a shining example of what we were talking about with the Hero QB thing. We start with Josh Allen, who is typically in regular drafts a second rounder, right?
Yep.
But Jonathan Taylor and Devontae Adams are both late round, first round guys.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've started Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams. The firepower on our team versus the team that has, and if you're in the chat, I'm sorry, I'm not roasting it, but Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers. Like, what team would you rather start with?
Yeah. We spent the time shitting on someone like Kirk Cousins, but when you take Jefferson, I don't think it's horrible.
No.
To take Kirk Cousins. Like, it wasn't all meant to be about like a player take around Cousins or Goff or whatever. It's not meant to be that. It's all about the actual structure around it. And like Aaron Rodgers is like fancy version of the Garoppolo thing we were just talking about. Like, of course he's better than Garoppolo. I like what he probably brings to the Jets as well. But what is Aaron Rodgers really going to win you at that cost with the elite players that you're passing on to get him? You built your stack. That's good. That's great. You got an awesome stack with the best wide receiver in fantasy, but then Rodgers just feels like chasing you're chasing the quarterback runs constantly. And like, it's instead of chasing, right? Kirk Cousins, what is it? Double Dutch, is that what it's? I keep trying to use this analogy and I keep forgetting whether it's double Dutch with the jump rope. Is that what is that? Is it double Dutch? Yeah. So you watch the people doing double Dutch, right? And they're trying to figure out when to hop in, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the quarterback thing is. No one's saying just like, oh, you have to punt it because everybody's too crazy. It's like, well, you can hop in the middle, and you hopped in for Kirk, right? You hopped in, got a couple jumps in there, cool, sick moves. Like, get the fuck back out and don't get hit by the rope, which is what you do when you take Aaron Rodgers by following it up with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was hoping Pollard would fall to us there.
I'm okay with DK though.
Yeah, I think we can go DK, and there is some stuff that I like on the turnaround here that I think we might get. So, but it would have been nice to get Pollard there. 4th round Tony Pollard. It like end of 4th round Tony Pollard.
I really thought Pollard was going to just like skyrocket up the boards, and I'm not really sure what's going on.
I don't know how we don't grab Ramondre.
I'm cool with Ramondre.
Like, I think the value is too great.
I'm also a little lower on him, like just relative to the overall landscape, but that's not at the 50th overall pick. I don't even know where I have Ramondre ranked. I'm trying to find it really quick. Yeah, so this is still a value for me. I'm lower than market on Ramondre, like relative to all running backs, and this is still a 7-pick value for me in SuperFlex. So like, smash.
I think it's a smash, and I'm excited because we do have some teams doing the stuff that we were talking about with triple tapping quarterback, or in various different ways of 3 out of the first 4 rounds. So we can kind of evaluate those teams as we go through. We saw our team go Lamar, Tua, Jalen Waddle, and then Derek Carr in this draft. And what they're going to do from there is going to be interesting to see versus us, who went with the single quarterback, but our single quarterback team now has Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, or Mondre Stevenson. Right?
Seeing Carr is an Aaron Rodgers-esque thing. Like, I actually don't hate like the outlook for Derek Carr this year on the Saints, but you have to think about, again, how are you going to win this tournament when 3 of your top 4 picks are on quarterbacks and basically none of them have the ability to separate from the field, right? And so those guys are the epitome of so you attach Trey Lance gives you a little upside, but now you have 4 quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds, and like you just don't have enough firepower of elite players to sorry staff, but you have to think about how you're going to win, right? And so you've just guaranteed yourself in the playoff rounds 2 of your top 5 picks are not going to be in your lineup.
Right.
That's what you just did. 2 of your top 5 picks. And the theory, right, I assume people doing this are like, well, I'm just going to ping pong around my quarterbacks for those 2 spots. Sometimes they're going to have a bad game and then maybe Carr has a good game. But that doesn't gain you that many points, right? Like, okay, so-and-so has a 12-point week. I don't even know who the top 2 quarterbacks this person picked were, right? Has a 12-point week, and you're like, oh, I got the Derek Carr 20-point game. It's like, you got 8 points. Like, that's not going to really probably be the difference between you advancing and you not. But this structure probably will be the difference between you being live to win this tournament if you were to make it to week 17, if you can even get there without the superstar skill players. It's like, you're playing the wrong game. You're playing the let's score as many points at quarterback and SuperFlex kind of as I can, as opposed to trying to win the tournament.
Yeah, it's some of the things that we definitely have to think about in this format as we come back on the clock.
Kobe Shorts asks, we're already getting into the week 17 takes with Derrick Henry. See, Jimmy Garoppolo in the 6th round makes me absolutely nauseous.
What are you looking at here? I think it's Allen or Pittman for me, probably.
I was going to say those. I'm pretty big on McLaurin and Jameson and Jameson Williams. I want to throw those guys in the. So you take one and then.
Well, let's do McLaurin because we already have Taylor on Indy. So.
Oh yeah.
So we probably don't want to go with Pittman as well. So we'll grab McLaurin. We'll throw Williams in the queue as well. And I would say for this team, to be completely honest, the better pick is Jameson Williams just because of the wide receivers that we have.
For every fucking team, the better pick is Jameson Williams than goddamn Keenan Allen. Are you trying to? You're doing the goddamn Jimmy Garoppolo of wide receivers.
For every team that you're drafting, but if we were able to go, if we were able to go, Jonathan, say we were able to get a team right that we went Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson, and Tony Pollard before that, and we only had Devontae Adams, so you swap out DK for Pollard, and we lose DK, then Keenan Allen is the better pick for this team. Hopefully that makes sense the way I just described it.
I think that argument is totally fair. I still don't think he's the better pick. It's kind of like when we used to talk about, it's not perfect equivalent, but it's kind of like we used to talk about take Naheem Hines or J.D. McKissick because of the types of players that you drafted around them. And I think I would just rather take more of the position with still taking the upside shot guys, right? If I got to take 1 or 2 more to offset the fact that sometimes Keenan Allen's 10-point games are going to make my lineup, I would just rather take the upside shot guys. And I'm not even really trying to hate on Keenan Allen. He's okay. I just think in half-point PPR, he takes a really, really big hit, and I would rather just take more upside shots than less of the position and a floor play.
I get it. I just think that there are merits to taking him in that type of spot.
I think so too.
He's very construction build for me though. I'm not just tapping Keenan Allen. Yeah. It is either I have to have Herbert, or it is very, very much how I'm constructing my team based on Keenan Allen. And for that spot that I mentioned, I like Jameson Williams a lot as a player. I think he is, for this particular team, the perfect type of receiver to add to it. But I think I can get guys that are slightly less likely to do what he does, but in the same vein, a round or 2 later. So I can get Kadarius Toney a little bit later.
Oh, well, you're really speaking my fucking language here. No, we drafted Jameson. We're gonna draft Toney. We're gonna draft all my guys.
Yeah, well, Toney's gonna be a big guy for me this year. I think I'll be having a lot of Mahomes, Kadarius Toney, MVS stacks on my best ball mania rosters as time goes on. We will tell. I don't know why I switched off of this view, but here we are.
See, dude, 7th round Jimmy G and Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, when people talk about and I mean, shit, I did it in the intro. People talk about the insane early quarterback runs. Like, I think it's okay, even with some of the, again, I keep using Dak because I think he's kind of that guy after the tier break that people don't want to take, that I think you can take in the late first, early second. The egregious ones are reaching for Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy might not play this year. I understand there is a little more upside. I would probably take Purdy over Jimmy G because I think there's just a little more potential upside. But in the 7th, we're gonna take what are they adding that Howell and Richardson and Levis and Stroud and Bryce Young, right? Gardner Minchu. What's the difference between Gardner Minshew and Jimmy G?
No, nothing to me.
Not much. I mean, there's
other than the small fact that Jimmy G's job is definitely more secure.
Oh yeah. Oh, so there is. Do you want to take Toney? I think we should take Toney so he doesn't go, and then because I like multiple of these other guys here, I wouldn't care as much if.
Yeah, there's other guys that I like here too that I'm more than fine with taking.
Okay, I like both these running backs.
Same. Yeah, so if either of these, do you prefer Mixon or do you prefer Akers?
I think I prefer Akers, but it's a real coin flip. I still feel like the Rams are less likely to bring somebody else in than the Bengals are, but I don't have really strong conviction on that either.
I'm a little more Mixon here.
Right?
Let's go Mixon. I'm gonna take my one overrule and go.
Yeah, I took JMO.
He's undervalued. Whereas
way undervalued.
Yeah.
Way undervalued.
Yeah, I think he's just way undervalued, and I think he will eventually rise up the board. I don't think Akers is going to rise more than a round or two up the board.
Which is also crazy.
Mixon might get into that 3rd round range with Pollard and Ramondre, and then we're never grabbing him. Because I'm not grabbing Mixon over Pollard. I'm taking Pollard.
But why are Mixon and Akers? I know this is the 9th. It's SuperFlex, so it's a little different. But why are they the whatever RB 30 something or what am I missing?
It's easier to explain because of all the drama and the way the season started last year. That's what's in people's minds, not how he looked at the end of the season, but he's on a team that didn't want him. He didn't want to be on. He requested trades. We didn't think he took a leave of absence from the team. There's so much drama surrounding him, and that's what people are remembering. They don't even think he's going to make the team, or they just have these thoughts of all the bad stuff from last year. Mixon doesn't make as much sense. They lose P. Ryan. They're probably going to bring Mixon back. They need to hold this team together as much as they can for this.
There's no reason to let him go now. We could have speculated 2 months ago for sure, but not anymore. There's no reason to let him go now.
Yeah, I mean the only way that he's even not viable is if they do some crazy trade up and try to get Bijan, right? That's the only galaxy brain way that Mixon has little to no value. And even
he's still gonna have maybe not the Bijan example, but anyone they bring in, he's the same as he's been the last 2 years. He hasn't been a workhorse. I guess people viewed him that way. P. Ryan was the passing down back. Yep. P. Ryan played passing downs and mixed in, no pun intended, with Mixon for years. Now P. Ryan's gone. It's Travion Williams and Chris Evans, who both stink, behind him. I would guess they're kind of going to wait out this veteran running back market, right? Hunt is still a free agent, and Lenny's still a free agent, and guys like that, they might come in but I think those guys would just come in and play the P. Ryan role. So like you have a guy who's been going in the second round for years in at worst the same role in one of the best offenses, and now he's the RB30. Like what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, thanks. I'll take him.
Yeah. And if you're worried about, I guess if you're worried about Akers' personality issues, you probably should be worried. Probably should be a little bit more worried about Joe Mixon's off the field track record. So maybe people are worried about him beating somebody up or something.
I agree. This part of the draft gets a little bit interesting because some of the things that we just talked about with Mixon, I'm kind of in on Kamara this year based on
he's a little tougher sell just because the suspension.
Yeah, but the suspension on a team that we have Taylor, Stevenson, and Mixon.
Well, we should take Gabe.
Yeah, we should take Gabe
on the Allen team. Who this is again? I'm not really. I'm pretty concerned that Gabe is not really a full-time player this year, but still in the 11th round, basically.
So if it were me, some of the guys I'd be looking at here. I don't know if we want Harris on this particular team. If you want to go a rookie, any of these guys jumping out to you?
Probably the running backs. I'm cool with either of them. I'll let you have your Kamara. I'm fine with that. Our running backs are freaking loaded, so we can.
Well, that's why we can take them.
Yeah, and then volume of wide receivers a little bit more late.
Yeah, if we had like a weaker running back room, it would be Khalil Herbert to me. But where we're just trying to get Kamara to the playoffs, I mean, an 8-game suspension, what do we care? In the grand scheme of things, we just took him in the 11th round. We took 11th round Alvin Kamara. Is he dust? Maybe. Who knows? But if we're getting 8 games out of him, and they're all in the second half of the season, and Taylor, Ramondre, and Mixon brought us, and then Kamara has one of his 3 or 4 touchdown games, right? Like,
yep.
Derek Carr is going to improve that offense. I was way down on the Saints last year. But when you're
I like him this year. I like him this year.
I like them. I don't love them, but I do like them. With Olave, who knows what we're going to get out of Michael Thomas.
I'm not worried about him, but Olave is very good. Rashid Shaheed is my guy.
Yeah.
Carr is a big upgrade at quarterback. And again, I don't really like
a massive upgrade, and he's not even that good, but he is a massive upgrade. I mean, they were playing Andy Dalton over Jameis last year.
Yeah. So like I'm just reading some of these comments, and this is apparently the things that I was missing. But Vaporware says the market thinks Mixon is a dusty piece of trash. Well, he is a piece of trash as a human being, but so is Tyreek Hill, and everybody's forgotten that. Which, by the way, Tyreek Hill's got to be the greatest example. Everybody keeps talking about me too, talking about Kamara's suspension, and there's a comment about Mixon like potential suspension too. Like, have we not learned about the NFL and suspend? As long as you're not gambling or smoking weed, you're not going to get suspended for a long time. Tyreek Hill's beating up kids, and all these guys do bad things. Okay, like a lot of these guys do very bad things. As long as you're not gambling or smoking weed or performance enhancing drugs, you're not getting a long suspension. Maybe that will change with Kamara. I've seen, videos and stuff like that too, but like it hasn't really remember the original Ray Rice suspension? I know that it changed. He got 2 games, right?
2 games.
He absolutely knocked out a woman. Like knocked out a woman.
And they had the video. We saw the video.
Right. The only reason that it went up from 2 was because they said, "Oh shit, everybody else can see this now." Like they don't care. And so us fantasy bros, myself included, with the Kamara thing, we do this projection of, but he could get suspended. Like, who gives a shit? Like, we need to stop pretending like the NFL is going to suspend these guys for like a long time and operate as if it's probably not a lengthy suspension. And so, but I agree, Joe Mixon is a piece of trash. I don't totally understand this one. Mixon could not play football. If by next year you mean 2024, I agree. And I don't disagree with age, antics, and lack of efficiency all point to the Bengals moving on. Yeah, but not this year. I agree. If they were going to move on, they would have already moved on before the draft, right? You clear that out so you can use the reason to get rid of them is to use the money. They're in their Super Bowl window. Yep. If you're going to let these, right? It was like the T trade. Like, why would they trade T? They're trying to win a Super Bowl. But if they're going to do it, you need to do it as early as possible because the money that you free up or the assets that you gain, you want to put them to use during free agency. Free agency is basically over and the draft's about to be here. Like there's no, and they let P. Ryan go already. There's no reason to let Mixon go now. They're trying to win, and so he is just a part of their team. We can hate it, love it. And for fantasy, I think he's not very good at football anymore too, but he had like the highest running back score of the entire season this year against the Panthers. He scored like 4 goddamn touchdowns in the first quarter. And like, we can hate it all we want, but like, he's going to score fantasy points.
The only thing is just looking at based on the Athletic, is if he's cut after June 1st, Joe Mixon, then the Bengals save $10 million.
Yeah, but like, what are they doing with it?
Right. Well, that's the point, right? Like, who are you getting at that point? So
saving money is great if you can use it for something.
Right.
I guess there might be something to like on a T extension or something like this. Definitely agree. Ben says he's just bad at football. Yeah, I know. No argument.
I mean, he's not great, but he dropped a 50 burger last year.
He's playing running back for the Bengals, man. Yeah. Like we can hate him all we want. I hate Leonard Fournette, but that dude was dropping 30 fantasy points down the stretch for the Bucks. Like not this year, obviously, but
do we like 12th round Dawson Knox here?
No, I fucking always hate Dawson Knox, but he makes sense on this team.
So let's start him. I want to really quickly look at what we're looking at.
Oh fuck! I forgot we definitely fucked up quarterback, but that's okay.
I don't know if we did. So we want to go Dawson Knox. Do you want to go something else here?
See, we should have taken Howell at some point. I lost track of. Steve says, "Is this a Zappy team?" Yes, probably. Brissett is fine. And this is actually right at about ADP for Brissett, right? Brissett's fine. I think we should take Brissett also because we have McLaurin, to give ourselves those outs. And I do think I'm sitting here
trash Brissett the entire
absolutely trashing Jacoby Brissett, but I don't actually mean like that he's like completely horrible. If he's the starter for Washington, he has a lot of value in this format at this cost. So
there's other guys that I think we can take later as well that I'm okay with.
What evidence is there that Joe Mixon is not playing football in 2023? What the fuck am I missing? What am I missing?
I will bet my life savings that Joe Mixon is playing football in the NFL this season. He will play football.
Jeez, I am definitely missing something.
They do not. The NFL does not let guys like that go out without giving them a second or a third shot. Fournette's going to be on a team. Mixon's going to be on a team. Are they going to be productive is what you should be asking. Not if they're going to play football. Is Joe definitely going to be productive in 2023? That's what we're not 100% sure on.
He's charged of he was charged with aggravated menacing. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Aggravated menacing, but it was dismissed.
Yeah, all of that got dismissed, didn't it?
So I'm trying to find. He was arrested. He pointed a gun at a woman, and it got dismissed. Well, he allegedly pointed a gun at a woman, and it got dismissed.
As you know from being on Hometown Ghost Stories this week, the word allegedly is very vital in things that we do.
The other word, I got a guy made fun of me in the comments for one of the recent videos here that I was saying technically. I kept saying technically because it's basically like the opposite of allegedly. Technically, this, that, or the other, and it's just like allegedly. We're throwing something in there that you really probably don't technically have to say. I guess it can be brought back to trial. Yeah, good luck with the old U.S. court process. I'm sure that'll go. I'm sure that things will be really swift for
by September.
Yeah, by September it'll come back to trial, and they'll already have decided the trial.
Yeah.
It's Kamara's been going on for like 2 years. The Kamara thing's been going on for like 2 years.
Yeah, the Kamara thing is crazy. And I don't think I think he's only going to get 4 games or less personally, because say what you want. It was like against another dude in a nightclub. It wasn't like he was at home beating his kids or his wife.
Right. He did something stupid, obviously.
Yeah,
but
it was not smart. But also, I don't know. Shit happens when you're out.
we've all done stupid shit. I mean, I haven't done that, but we've all done stupid shit. Here, I'm reading a quote about Joe Mixon. Quote from the GM: Joe has been a vital part of our team. He's been a successful part of our team. I'm not going to predict the offseason. This is before his stuff got dismissed. Mm-hmm. Not going to predict the offseason because no one has the answers, but we would like to bring Joe back. So,
yeah, they want to make a run. They're going to want him. I don't think they want to lose P. Ryan and Mixon.
No, that's the thing. What are they going to do? Like, who? Mixon sucks. Mixon sucks. I agree. Who doesn't suck that they're I guess Hunt would be the only option.
And I guarantee you that Joe
Lenny
Burrow
sucks too.
Mixon.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to remember that, like, if a quarterback likes your running back, they are going to do what they can to keep that guy on the team. We saw it with Brady for years.
Okay. We need to look at quarterbacks and wide receivers, I think. Woof.
Well, let's look at quarterback. So,
Mike White is one of my White and Zappy. I do like at quarterback. Not necessarily, we don't have to take them right now, but we should be considering.
Do we want to grab Pierce?
Sure, yeah, Pierce is fine. Or Shaheed. Pierce is fine.
I didn't see Shaheed.
I didn't see him either.
Okay. Well, maybe we grab another wide receiver, then be done with wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the rest of our stuff. Because I think there's two viable wide receivers left here. We'll grab Shaheed. But I think MVS is just as fine.
Yep. No argument. I just love me some Shaheed.
And I don't think we need any more wideouts on this team, to be perfectly honest. 8 is more than enough on the SuperFlex.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, the Mixon argument, we can have it all day. He's going to play football this year unless he goes and murders somebody or something, right? Like, that's...
Right, you can keep arguing that he sucks. I don't care. It's irrelevant. And you can't take... I love the argument. If you take out the Carolina game, look at this. It's like, well, but you can't take out if you take out Tom Brady's game against Carolina in week 17, Pat Green doesn't have $2 million. But guess what? Pat Green has $2 fucking million because Tom Brady did do that. You can't, we can't just take that stuff out. I agree. No one's arguing Joe Mixon is good, but that game is part of why he is valuable at this cost. And P. Ryan is gone. It's not just about what Mixon did last year, because last year P. Ryan was there and Mixon got hurt for a stretch. So it's like, it is what it is. I don't like Joe Mixon either. I hate all running backs. You think I like this old dusty dude who's running around waving guns at women? Like, no, of course I don't like him. But like, those are guys I'm like. Cam Akers and Joe Mixon have been second and third round picks for all the same reasons that they are attractive this year. And now they go in picks. Yeah. So I'm in most structures, but in certain structures, they have value, right? And if you like Kamara, draft him too. You know, the comment was Kamara is available later. Well, we drafted Kamara too.
Yeah, we have Kamara. We did it.
Yeah, exactly. We drafted all these losers, all these old ass running backs who are going to jail apparently.
We will name this team the longest yard.
Yeah, exactly. This is the longest yard.
A comment that came on that I meant to hit on earlier was someone asked about, I think it was Sack Me or something like that on the chat. What were the results of stacking for week 17 last year? And without looking at complete data, what I can tell you is if you stacked Mike Evans and Tom Brady, you won all.
And DJ Moore. DJ Moore.
You game stacked that, you won all of the money. All of it. You won every money that was out there. If you got that team through. Right?
Mm-hmm. Corain had Godwin and still won $2 million.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and the guy that was in the final of the puppy that I was in had an Evans Brady stack, and I think he won by 30 or 40 points.
And just like in terms of secondary stuff, Mostert was one of the highest scoring running backs, and Tyquan was on Karane's team as a week 17 correlation. And there was a couple others, but yeah. So again, we only have a 1 game sample every year from a week 17 thing, but you can just see when it hits, which it just so has happened. It's not going to hit like this every single year, but we had Bengals, Chiefs, right? And then like Lions, Seahawks, and then this past season with I think Mike White here probably.
Okay, let's grab White.
I mean, they're all backups, and Mike White is whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, if we're assessing injury risk for starting quarterbacks, the guy who keeps banging his head on the ground and leaving games and stuff, like Tua is one more concussion away from a probably pretty lengthy absence. So,
I think we need one more running back on this team.
Yes. You like Kendra the most?
I like Kendra more than Fournette. Yeah. I think we have the right team for Kendra Miller too. I mean, if he's anything, this team is rocket shipping up to, our points 1.5x in prison.
Excellent comment. It's DraftKings scoring if they're in prison. Bonuses.
They get bonuses if they're running in shackles. That's all.
Can you see the field and longest yard as a mess? They need extra points.
The Bengals uniforms are already striped. So
that is true.
We're golden here. I don't know what you guys are all worried about.
That is very true. Yeah, I was gonna say when you said do you prefer Fournette? I said if I take Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara and Leonard Fournette all on the same team, I don't think I'll ever be able to live that one down.
No, I wanted one of the rookie running backs there. We have 3 draft spots left, and we probably need 2 tight ends, and I'm fine with getting another quarterback.
Yeah. Take another flyer on a quarterback.
And I actually think the team we're building hits every single point we were talking about in the beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go over the team roster at the end, but this is exactly what we were talking about with multiple points.
And I think that the dream scenario for this team that I wish we had back is to have one of those upside flyer young quarterbacks from a massive tier of we happen to just mention Howell a lot, but any of the rookies, Richardson, Stroud, Bryce Young, don't love Levis, but Levis, just having one of those guys, or like I said, Howell, or I know you don't like Lance, and I'm not really drafting Lance that much either, but like having a guy who could be a slate breaker type guy as with a little more outs to starting right away, I think is the dream here. But if you don't get that, I think this is like a good way to kind of pivot around. Like that's the other thing
for the 12th round though. So like that's the stuff that Gardner Minchu. Usually you're getting him around 15 or 16. That's the point. This draft they went a lot earlier. That's why we missed out on him in this particular draft.
Yeah, we turned around and I was loosely monitoring where my guys, air quotes, the Howells and such of the world. And it's also tougher when you're on the turn like we are, where, you can catch falling value, which we did, but you also can get locked out of a position like quarterback really, really, really easily. But yeah, if Gardner Minshew is going in the 12th round, it's tough.
Right. And that's why we got locked out of some of those guys that we would normally like on this team. I mean, I was flirting just a week ago with, can I take Minshew in the 16th round? I mean, can I take him in the 17th or something like that instead of the 18th? And he got sniped right before me. We're talking a 5-round difference in this draft.
Yeah.
So the other thing is ADP is constantly changing on this.
Yes, it is.
So you need to be real aware of what's going on.
Let's see. Okay, tight end's totally fine. Look at quarterback really quick just to see what we can just polish up quarterback. Do you prefer Zappy, Darnold? I don't want Willis or Trask. Mariota?
I do
or
like
Stidham?
Mariota
or Stidham?
Let's go with Zappy.
Okay.
Let's do the Zappy one.
He's the one that would have outs starting week 1. Like they're minimal outs, I think, but we could use someone that has, I guess, Brissett and Zappy have outs to start week 1.
Agreed. So that's why I kind of want to go with Zappy. I would like to go Mariota if we had another
tight end.
We need tight end.
Is Hunter Henry? Hunter Henry.
Yep, get that stack. I'm more than fine with that.
Also a core pick on spikeweek.com. Hunter Henry. Why is Hunter? Okay, I don't know if I know we just touted Joe Mixon. I don't know. Is Hunter Henry also too bad to draft? I'm not sure. Someone has to tell me. But like, why is Hunter Henry going in the 19th, 20th round of these drafts? Like, again, he had a bad year last year, but like, please explain to me what Patriot besides Ramondre was horrible. That happens when Joe Judge and Matt Patricia are running your offense, and there's really not that much talent. Now, a lot of concerns still exist for the Patriots offense this year, but we have a much more competent, theoretically, offensive, kind of structure built around with the coaching staff. And he just Hunter Henry was like a smash pick 2 years ago in the same situation. You just swapped out Jonnu for Gesicki. Gesicki is a glorified wide receiver. He's not going to steal inline tight end snaps from Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry has multi-touchdown upside at tight end for super late. I don't know why he goes so late. Yeah, this is good.
I'm dying. Ben in the chat says Hunter Henry is being arrested for weapons and drug manufacturer and trafficking. Just all of them. He hit the holy trifecta on that one. So.
Yeah.
Ben, the reason why you're not an analyst is you didn't say allegedly.
Allegedly, exactly.
So, just to coach you on how to do this, if you ever wanted to stream full-time in the future, you would have to say, Hunter Henry is being arrested for allegedly weapons and drugs manufacturing and trafficking charges. And that's how you become an analyst.
Exactly.
Just, from one of the top analysts in the game.
Say
I talk
nothing
about murders for a living, so I have to say allegedly.
Say nothing of substance, and frankly, lots of things that aren't true, but use the appropriate verbiage so that you cover your tracks, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to, in case you end up in court one day, you need to make sure you're saying the right words. So we have a 4-5-8-2 build. Our two tight ends are Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry. So I'm guessing we need to grab a third tight end on this particular team. So I'm just going to look at the tight end. And I think there's some really viable tight ends left among this group that I like. Also, Crash Rich just got Heineke in the 20th round. I like Heineke in Atlanta for a 20th round flyer on a SuperFlex team.
Yeah, no problem from me.
So,
I mean, he sucks. He sucks too, but like he's behind another dude who sucks. So it's like,
yeah, and he provides some, like, at least a little bit of upside of if he does start on an offense that I do like.
There he goes, Crash Rich. So who do you think has the most upside? I think we need an upside swing. I think Knox and Henry are. I think likely Sam Laporta. Those would be probably the two highest upside guys back here. I think. Is Jake Ferguson gone? I assume Jake Ferguson's gone.
Yeah, Jake Ferguson's gone. I think likely is the
home run swing
here. And then Laporta, Darnell Washington's, whatever. Noah Gray's another guy that I'm just taking some swings on in the 20th round. But this is not probably a Noah Gray team.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I think Steve is saying Laporta, but I don't in terms of upside swing, I don't agree with that. I think we have seen over and over and over a not super highly drafted tight end, like even when they're like first round picks, but they're not. And I mean, Pitts was good as a rookie, but not absolutely incredible. And I like Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta's from here, by the way, pride of Beverly Hills High School. He is not going to be like the total upside. I think he could be good. and be a useful fantasy tight end. And I like to take the rookie tight ends because no one likes to take them because of this narrative. But I think like pure upside swing is likely's contingent value. Like if you get to this literally happened last year. If you get to week 17, or I think it was 18, with no Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely's a top for sure 5 tight end, top 3. I mean, he'd probably project for the highest. He'd probably project for a higher target share than Travis Kelce, like target share, not fantasy points. But like, he had like 14 targets or 12 targets or something like that without Mark Andrews at the end of the season last year. He's going to project as a top 5 tight end. Laporte is probably, I mean, I guess there's a scenario, but I think we know Likely's ceiling. It's all contingent based, but also he could catch a couple touchdowns throughout the year, even with Andrews.
I think even with Andrews, because I think they showed that they want to use him a lot towards the end of the season. And of all the tight ends at the late round, I think he could fly up draft boards during the preseason when he just starts. He could be like the preseason all-star, right? Where they're playing him just to see what
like last year.
Yeah, exactly.
and he shot up the draft. Shout out to me for one of the like 4 things I got right all of last season was before all the schmucks got on the Isaiah Likely bandwagon because he caught a touchdown in the preseason. We were touting him here. He won me $0, but it was very fun. It was very fun to victory lap Isaiah Likely.
It's a check mark in the old win column.
Yeah,
when you can get 8% on the test instead of 6%, sometimes you just want to do that.
Yeah, right. Yes. I like that. It does feel better. It does. It's like when you play a DFS team and after you didn't play Joe Mixon against the Panthers and he has 5 first half touchdowns. You're drawing dead, but you stay watching the games, or maybe you're not watching. You're just laying on the couch, triggered. Like looking at your phone, like sweet.
Watching.
Oh, sweet. Oh, Likely caught a touchdown. Like I moved from the 1st percentile to the 3rd percentile of this, and I told everyone to play him. So yes, got it. Yeah, you're hate scrolling the play-by-plays.
Let's go through this roster. We have at quarterback Josh Allen, Jacoby Brissett, Mike White, Bailey Zappi. At running back Jonathan Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller. Wide receiver is Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Jameson Williams, Kadarius Toney, Gabe Davis, Alec Pierce, Rashid Shaheed. And then our tight ends are Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry, Isaiah Likely. Dude, this team, I know it's SuperFlex, and people are going to be like, well, you don't have a second quarterback for SuperFlex, and you're not going to win tournaments because of it. But look at the players that we can be rotating in and out of both flex spots from the other positions. I don't care what your thoughts are on Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara. They are going to play this year, but we have Taylor and Ramondre Stevenson. Our wide receivers are only starting 2, remember. So if 2 of those wide receivers generally are Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, we still have Jameson Williams, Kadarius Toney, Gabe Davis. And,
I like all. That's a lot of obviously the first 3 guys are good, but then you want to talk about better in best ball or best ball type picks. Jameson Williams, Kadarius Toney, Gabe Davis, Alec Pierce, and Rashid Shaheed. Yeah. Like probably never, maybe outside of Toney, and we don't really know about JMO, are not going to earn. They're not going to be Devontae Adams earning 30% target shares, but they're going to have big games. Like all of them, they already have big games because of their upside.
Yeah, and then our tight ends are whatever, but you know what? Everyone's tight ends are whatever. Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry, Isaiah Likely, like whatever. But I think that this is the type of team where we're talking about, especially with these top 3 quarterback anchor picks. Would we have liked to have one more quarterback that is more likely to start, like a Sam Howell, a Gardner Minchu, 2 names that we kept bringing up? Of course we would have rather, but they went in the 12th round and before. So by pushing them off, we were able to build this core of running backs and wide receivers that are probably going to play our SuperFlex spot more often than not. And guess what? If Mike White ends up playing football most of the year, possibility with Tua and the injury status that he has, because his are concussions, they are going to be safe with him if it looks bad. Bailey Zappi might be the starting quarterback here in New England based off of Mac Jones being a gigantic bitch and Bill Belichick also being a gigantic bitch. And, the season of Real Housewives of New England breaking out over here, we might have a Bailey Zappi starting quarterback team in New England. So I like it a lot, to be perfectly honest.
I think what this team outlines, actually did a video, I think it was 2 years ago. It might have been last year. I don't remember. The 800 days in a row of talking about best ball have sort of blended together. But I talked about the skill of drafting. I did a show about once you're in the room, in a slow draft too, but generally in a fast draft, like it's not just about, once you're done and you post that screenshot, like it's easy to look at a screenshot and say you screwed this up or you didn't, right, on Twitter. But when you're in the room and picks are flying off the board, they may not go 80, it may be a QB heavy rumor, a wide receiver heavy rumor. You want to get the stack, but you don't want to reach too far. Like, how do you do these things and how do you react? Like, not every draft you do is going to be perfect. After we finish this one, we talked about, like, if we really wanted to perfect it, we would have had some kind of 2v2 with one of those, probably wide receivers and a quarterback, right? There would be just some, you take out Zappy or Mike White and you put in whoever, insert your quarterback that you like there, CJ Stroud or something. Probably prefer that. Yeah. But like, you have to be able to kind of roll with the punches and be like, look, we were drafting at the turn. We weren't able to perfectly get everything we got, but we built a team as best we could that has outs. We gave ourselves outs. We didn't just say, fuck it. Burn this team. It might be burned. Who knows? Most are, though. Only two teams in every league are going to advance. You're probably going to burn them. So let's build in, like you said, okay, what if Jacoby Brissett's the starter? Or what if Howell goes down or loses the job? Same thing. Mike White. What about Tua? Bailey Zappi? What about Mac Jones? We gave ourselves as many chances as we could to find that. And God knows we don't need another quarterback. We only need one of those three guys, right? And again, it's super flex. We don't really want to count on, running backs and wide receivers filling the super flex, but like, we're not going to take zeros. I'm not going to take a zero in super flex. It's just, we might be being beaten there to start the year, but all we got to do is survive. You know what I mean? And having Josh Allen really helps you survive. So I think it was a good draft in that fashion, in that you kind of always are adapting, doing something, trying to find leverage, like we talked about at the top, and then figuring out how to still make a team that gives you a chance to win the tournament, even if it's thin. Like, even if you feel like, oh God, I mean, we need a quarterback to get hurt, but like, you need crazy shit. Like, that's football's chaos. You're going to need to benefit from some kind of chaos. And so set yourself up to do so.
Yeah, I think we did that with this roster. Before we get out of here, what I would like to say is thank you to everybody that reached out yesterday. I lost a pet, and losing a pet is really difficult, to be honest. It sucked. The last 36 hours between a bunch of stuff was bad, and I don't really want to get completely into it, but a lot of people reached out, and I want to say thank you. Bruce was a phenomenal pet. He was a great little guy, and I'm glad that he's resting easy. So thank you to everybody that did reach out. It was very much appreciated.
Always brutal. Not much but it's also very uncomfortable when it happens to someone and you're like, you feel that pain and you want to be able to try to communicate something. Yeah. And it's like, it's one of those, a pet dies, a family member or a friend or somebody passes or something bad happens to someone, and you want to be like, console them, give them maybe some positive reinforcement or whatever, but there is literally nothing anyone can say that can make anyone feel better. And so, but it is nice to see, we joke, and Ben's giving us, Ben in the chat is giving us grief about drafting dusty running backs, and we're giving grief back because he thinks Joe Mixon's going to prison tomorrow. Like, we're just having fun, but it's always all in good fun. Everybody here internally, obviously, Rob and I and the whole Spike Week team, anytime if we're acting like sarcastic assholes, it is all in good fun and joking around. You guys are freaking awesome. And obviously, this is a good example of you guys being awesome back, even though we can all disagree and have fun and sometimes heated discussions and debates. But really good example of an awesome community, man. Awesome. Yeah, just tons of good people.
Been really great, so I do appreciate it. Again, not to bring the mood down, but yeah. I needed to say thank you. I needed to say thank you to everybody for that. So thank you.
Quick programming note: you and TJ are doing a draft again tomorrow. Is that the plan?
We're gonna do a draft. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be at 1 p.m., but I will confirm that time with TJ. We had to push that from yesterday to tomorrow, obviously. So we'll be doing a draft tomorrow, and if you're not familiar with TJ TJ is one of our leading NFL guys on Roto Grinders. So not only does he do NFL, he does NBA, he does MLB. TJ is a rock star at RG. Might be one of the most undervalued members of our content team. So if you haven't seen TJ, he's a lot of fun. He'll be great to draft with. His NFL mind is great. So seeing what he would do in best ball tournaments is going to be a lot of fun.
I also love. We're definitely going to be bringing a lot more contributors on both video and written and just all sorts of different jobs. So you'll definitely be on this year. If you've grown sick of looking at my face or at Rob's face, I promise you're going to get some new, fresh faces with some fresh perspectives over the course of the next, very soon, but definitely over the course of the next 6 months. And I think it's important to bring people like TJ on and a bunch of you other guys who've reached out to me, because especially, someone like TJ that thinks a little bit differently, comes from a different space, right? I came from DFS too, but now I've been grinding this for a couple of years. Getting those different perspectives, especially from someone, who has successfully grinded something like DFS that is so hard for such a long time and has perspective on all the different sports and the different formats, whether it's showdown or whatever, I think is really nice. So we want to make sure we're bringing some of those guys into. Anything else you got before we get out of here?
No, it's going to be nice seeing other faces. And 2023 Spike Week, the year we make you hate more faces.
Yes, exactly.
Forward. But yeah, that's it for me.
Rob and TJ will be back tomorrow. Tons of new stuff coming. I can't give anything away just yet, but new shows, lots more content, written media, rankings. I mean, it's almost here, dude. It's really crazy. Best Ball Mania is probably less than a month away. So we're gonna be firing up tons of stuff here at Spike Week. Go ahead.
We will be drafting Sunday morning as well. Just
probably perfect.
Probably a solo draft with me, but we had a lot of fun doing a Sunday morning draft. A lot of people enjoyed it. We'll do another Sunday morning draft this week.
Awesome. Rob and TJ tomorrow. Rob on Sunday. Me, and also the very near future. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good afternoon.